Okay, so section 1-2 is going to be a nice, for the most part, review from Algebra 1 concepts. And we've got 4 different forms to look at equations, and I'll just talk about each of those forms. We will be using point-slope form a lot, and I pretty much am sure that you guys did last year too, because when I talk to the AP calculus teachers and I'm like, what do they need to know? This always comes up, point-slope form. They need to know point-slope form. So this is something that I guess you really need to know for next year. Point-slope form of a line, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. You can use point-slope form if you have the slope and you have a point. Hence the name point-slope form. Okay. Slope-intercept form of a line, y equals mx plus b. We can use slope-intercept of a line if you have the slope and the y-intercept. I do want to remind you that when we write y-intercepts, we write them as 0, b, not as just the number by themselves, but they are ordered pairs. There is one line that, well, I call it a line, but it is not a function. It cannot be written in point-slope or slope-intercept forms because this line does not have a slope and it does not have a y-intercept. Does anybody know what line I'm talking about? It's not a function. Oh, my first bell knew. So the one line that is kind of an exception to the rule, does not have a slope, does not have a y-intercept, is a vertical line. So if I ask you for the equation and it is a vertical line, you won't be able to write it in a bunch of different forms. The only way we can write a vertical line equation would be x equals and then just a number. You will have an x-intercept, and that x-intercept will be at a 0. So you will have no y-intercept. If I ask you the y-intercept on Canvas where you have to type something in, if I ask you the y-intercept, you will put none. If I ask you the slope, you will write, what's no slope? Undefined. Perfect. Undefined. I'm going to run out of space. I'm going to move my thing over. What happens if you don't know how to spell undefined? Canvas is going to mark it wrong, so just make sure you double check that spelling if you're getting it wrong. Next is called intercept form equation of a line. And this equation is x over a plus y over b equals 1. In this equation, the x-intercept is a0, and the y-intercept is 0b. It's just that easy, if it's in that form. If it is in that form, we will have a plus sign, and we will have it equal to 1. If it doesn't have the plus sign, if it's not equal to 1, then it's not in the intercept form. Standard form equation of a line is the form ax plus by equals c. There's some rules that come with standard form. A cannot be a negative number. So that first number in front of the x, the first number it starts with, cannot be a negative number. Another rule is A, B, and C must be integers. What does integers mean? Well, that means we don't have fractions. no decimals, no square roots, integers. I will warn you that sometimes you might go through and get a standard form answer that's 4x minus 2y equals 10. And maybe it's a multiple choice question, and you look at your multiple choice answers, and that one's not there. However, this one is answer B, I don't know. 2x minus y equals 5. What did they do to this to make it into that answer choice? Well, you can say simplified, but really it's more like manipulating. We divided both sides by 2 of the equation because it could divide out the 2. So that's, I can call it simplifying, kind of putting that standard form all the way down in reduced form. So this is something that you might see on occasion. Okay? I don't think we have any like that in our assignment today, unless you do something weird and then it ends up in that top one. But if you guys get any questions that aren't working, then you send me emails and I'll get back to you. All right, example 1. So I only made one example. I just figured we'd do everything about this one example instead of having like 4 different examples. So we've got, write an equation of a line that passes through the points negative 22 and 10, 14. We are going to write it in all 4 forms, and we're going to graph the line. Okay? Let's see. So our first form is point slope form, and we need a point and the slope. What did they not give me? Yeah, can you find it? Oh, good. We could use our slope formula that you guys should have from previous courses. I just wrote y, it's not y. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, or the point slope form itself. That equation, solve for m. If you divide both sides by this parenthesis, you solve for m, you get the slope formula. So that is one way that you could also just use one equation to find multiple things. All right, so we have 14 minus 2 over 10 minus negative 20, so 12 over 30. If I ask you the slope and you write 12 over 30, will you get it correct on Canvas? You will not. Why? It's not simplified. We're going to reduce it. And it ends up being 2/5. So we have our slope. Now we can do point slope formula. If you don't have it memorized, write it every time you do it. Write the formula y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1 until you get it memorized. Write it every time until you get it memorized. That is point slope. All right, we're going to plug in y minus, which ordered pair should I use? I can use either. Which one should I use? Why? Who said first one? Somebody over here. Who's talking? It's a boy. Sam? What do you think? Because it's first? All right, that's a valid reason. He's going to use the first one because it's first. Anybody else have another reason of using one of those? It doesn't really matter. These should really be all right answers here. Gracie? Oh, you're just thinking ahead about distributing and stuff? Yep, that's another. So you want to use the first one? Okay. Any other? Okay. Well, if one has more negatives, I usually use the negatives because when I plug them in, they become positives. That's one thing that I look at, but it's really up to you which one you use. So we'll use the first one. Y minus 2 equals 2/5. X plus 20 when I plug it in. Oh, that's all you have to do for point slope form. I'm done. So that would be what you would type in for point slope form. All right, but I'm asking for you to do more than just point slope form. Let's do slope intercept form now. Do we know the y-intercept? Was it given to us? Lainey, was it given to us, the y-intercept? Did they say, here's the y-intercept? No. And because it wasn't given to us, we have to find the y-intercept. Well, since we already know the equation of the line right above, if you just simplify that, you can put it into slope-intercept form, and then we would know the y-intercept from there. So, Kyle, like, what would you do to simplify this one in the red box to make it into slope-intercept? So, Kyle, we're making it into y equals mx plus b. Are there parentheses in y equals mx plus b? So what should you do? Yeah, distribute. Okay, that's not quite y equals mx plus b, so we're going to solve for y and add that to. And now we have slope-intercept form. The next is intercept form. Intercept form is x over a plus y over b equals 1. I know what b is. I just found it. It's 10, but do I know a? Did they give me a? Did they give me an x-intercept? Here's your x-intercept? No. So what you can do is you can take one of these previous questions, one of these previous equations, and solve it to find your x-intercept. How do we find an x-intercept? Make y 0. So how about we do that with slope-intercept form here? So we're going to make y 0. So 0 equals 2/5 x plus 10, and then just solve. And I got negative 25. So I'll have x over negative 25 plus y over 10 equals 1 for my intercept form. So you can look at intercept form and be like, x-intercept, negative 25, y-intercept 10, done. And then the last form is standard form. Standard form, you really need to go off of one of these previous forms. So I don't really care which one we start with, but I'm going to cold call on somebody. I'm going to go with whatever they say. We have to put this into standard form. Standard form is ax plus by equals c. We have to figure out which form we can put into ax plus by equals c. Patrick, which form would you like to start with? Point slope? The very first one?
Yeah.
Why? Because it was first? Okay, let's think a little bit harder than that. Does standard have parentheses in it? So I probably don't want to pick a form that gives me more work. I want to pick a form that's close to standard form.
I just do the intercept form.
Okay, the one in black up here, the intercept form. All right, so we already have the x in the correct place. We already have the y in the correct place. But we can't have fractions. And if 25 is on the bottom, that is a 1 over 25, or negative 1 over 25. So this is a fraction right here. Also, with standard form, we look up here, standard form, the a value cannot be negative. And right now, if I start intercept form, the a value is negative. So we got a few things we can take care of. How can we take this standard form and make it, intercept form, and make it so that we do not have fractions, so that we do not have denominators? What can we do? We're going to manipulate it. Who can answer for me before I just pick somebody? Who can answer? How can I get rid of fractions? All right, who's talking? I can't tell. Oh, is it Madeline? What? Okay, so do you mean I'm going to multiply by negative 25? Do you mean I'm going to multiply by 10? Or am I going to multiply by both of the numbers? Or what do you think? She's totally on the right track. We're going to multiply something that has to do with the denominators. And you could, I'll call on you in a second, you could multiply by negative 25 and multiply by 10, which would be multiplied by negative 250. But you will have to go back and probably simplify afterwards. You are, oh, Philip. Philip wanted it. Say it again. 50? Why? Lowest common denominator. Perfect. Yeah, if we multiply by 50, that should be actually before you multiply by 50. Let's do ourselves a favor and not have to go back and do 2 steps. If we multiply by 50, that's not taking care of the other problem. Yeah, if we multiply by negative 50, then we take care of both problems at the same time. Now, of course, you can go and do more steps. That's fine. But I like to be as efficient as possible. So I get 2x plus, and this will, oh no, not plus. That will give me 2x minus 5y equals negative 50. So in this form, we have no fractions. We start with a negative. We have it in standard form. And then finally, graphing it. I gave you points that were really like not on the graph on purpose because I just want to go over what you could do to your graph if you need to. You could change the scale, but I want you guys to see what is okay and what is not okay. What the first thing I'm going to show you is what I do not want you to do, okay? Do not do this. Don't write me some note on the side that your graph goes by 5s. Do not do that. I want all of your graphing stuff on the graph, so do not do that. I promise you I will miss it. And don't look over there. What you want to do is, if you want to go by 5, we didn't even decide what we're going to go by. You want to just label a couple points to say what you're going by, and then I know what you're going by. If nothing's labeled, then you're going by 1s. You just label a few of them. Let's look at our numbers. What would be something good to go by? 2s, yeah, because negative 20 will fit. Sure. If you are doing lines, I think it is helpful to make x and y go by the same. However, you don't have to, but I think it's helpful for x and y to be the same if you're doing lines, just because of slope. That's the only reason. All right, so if we're counting by 2s, this is what I would do. I'd just go like 2, 4. I'll go over here and I'd do 2, 4, and then everybody knows I'm counting by 2s on both axes. You don't have to do anything else. That's it. So we are going to graph negative 22 and 10, 14. You guys have lines on your Cami. I do think it's very helpful just to kind of double check some of the stuff that we found. I mean, I know my line is correct because I just graphed the points they gave me. But I can check that my other work is correct. Like, was my slope actually up 2/5? Well, let me go to a point on the graph. Up 2/5. And it ended on the graph again. Up 2/5. Now, you guys see me going up 2 spaces and not actually 2 numbers? Remember, slope is a ratio. It doesn't have to be 2/5. It could be 4/10. So that's what I was doing. And that's why I say for lines, it's really helpful if you go up by the same amount on both sides, so you can still use your slope easily. Because if they were different, it would be harder. And then something else I could check would be like the y-intercept. Is my y-intercept actually at 10? Yeah. My x-intercept, could that be at -25? My graph's not big enough, but could it be at -25? Looks like it could be. Yeah. Okay. So that is pretty much the notes that you need for the second assignment. I'm going to give you like, I don't know, 15 minutes or so to work on the second assignment. You could go back to the first assignment if you're not done with that. You can pause on the first assignment, work on the second assignment. It's totally up to you. I'm just trying to break up just notes. Okay? Yes, ma'am?
When you submit the worksheet on the board, is it like a PDF or?
The first one today? So let me pause this and then I'll answer your question, okay? Because I'm still recording. And nobody's going to listen to that. Oh, no. 1 second.